Welcome back to Flying Blind.
We're flying blind.
I'm Austin.
I'm Josh. Today, we're talking about crazy on-set stories. So we all hear the words movie magic, but that final product, that magic, comes with a lot of sweat and tears, and sometimes with funny stories with some of our favorite actors.
Okay, I'm excited to hear this.
I've combed through r/movies, and we're gonna go through some of what I thought were some of the most egregious, some of the funniest, and we're not going for those like easy ones that everyone knows. We're not going for Viggo Mortensen breaking his foot or his toe when he kicks the orc head, Lord of the Rings. That's easy, low-hanging fruit. We'll get into it. This is great. Another low-hanging fruit one, maybe some people don't know about this, but let's keep on the Lord of the Rings theme. Sean Bean hates helicopters, so he would hike up the mountains when they were filming the mountain scenes in the Fellowship of the Ring. It's low-hanging fruit if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, like myself. Now, here's one that I didn't know. Sorry, the reason why I'm saying Lord of the Rings fan is because the first one is Lord of the Rings. Okay, so Viggo, when they, first Lord of the Rings, they do like these big canoe scenes, in the first movie.
Yes.
And Viggo apparently was having a fantastic time. Like, he's quite the outdoorsman. He loved being on the canoe. But the stunt double, who was like Gimli's stunt double, was in his canoe.
Okay.
And they were like fully paddling down the river for a long amount of time.
Okay, talk me through that scene one more time. Like, okay, I know the scene. They're in the canoes. There's like two people per canoe, or is it multiple?
Yeah, two per.
Okay, so is it two? Like, is it Viggo and his stunt double?
Viggo and Gimli's stunt double.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So apparently Viggo's having a great time.
Does Viggo do his own stunts?
It's a good question. Don't know, but it's because
Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So they're having a great time, and then casually, Viggo kind of does like a quick maneuver, and then the stunt double looks at him and goes, "Hey, just so you know, like, I can't swim. So whatever."
A stunt double can't swim?
And Viggo is like, all of a sudden goes from having a wonderful afternoon to like, quote, shitting his pants, being like, "If I flip this canoe, I'm gonna kill this man." Which is,
what lake were they in?
It was in New Zealand.
Okay, so a deep lake.
I
probably.
couldn't tell you,
I
but
reckon.
yeah, hilarious. And
Wow.
I thought that was a good one to start us off.
I feel like if you're a stunt double, you should have a very detailed resume, but it should have a list of like basic requisites, Like,
can jump, can swim, can run.
Yes.
Speaking of
can
swimming,
ride motorcycle, etc.
True, that's actually, So let's stick on the swimming theme and then go from stunt doubles to extras.
Okay, extras, I feel like the prerequisites are
Lower.
can smile on camera without getting red.
This is perfect, okay? Because back in the day, Hollywood did not have like the standard of this is okay to film or try to film. So in 1928,
we're really
we're going back. We're going back. They filmed like a crazy epic of Noah's Ark, this story. Okay. They took 7,500 extras. 7,500 extras, put them in essentially a massive pit, which they didn't. Okay, so this is the crazy part. They didn't know what was going to happen.
The extras didn't?
The extras didn't. They knew there was going to be water. Noah's Ark. They knew there was going to be water. Okay. Production then proceeded to fill it with, get this, like rapidly fill it with 600,000 gallons of water.
What? How big was this pit?
Massive. So the panic that we see
is real panic
in the movie is real panic. Much so that 3 people drowned
and died.
Oh
my God.
And 1 person lost his leg.
Okay. That is crazy. And the most insane part about that is that this is a recurring theme in Golden Age Hollywood. 100%. And that's why I was talking about Wizard of Oz as a low-hanging fruit, because there were no morals on set.
Right.
There were none. Like, they were like, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Asbestos everywhere. Asbestos in the snow. You want to make the Tin Man tin? Put aluminum straight on his face.
That's right. Didn't they put he had lead poisoning or something like
he turned blue. And they said he went to the hospital. He was like, I'm out of work. I'm still blue. And they were like, cool. can you be on set tomorrow? And he was like, no, I'm dying, potentially. And they were like, okay, cool. So halfway through shooting the movie, they switched Tin Man.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, there are 2 Tin Man in Wizard of Oz.
Because the other guy got fired?
Exactly.
Because he had lead poisoning.
Yep. And like the guy who was the lion was wearing like real lion fur. And it like crazy stuff. He was getting crazy skin reactions on it. Right. Insane. The horror stories of it were nuts. Apparently, Judy Garland was like on drugs 99% of the time. And it's terrible. But like Hollywood had no standards. Right. And I feel like, not to their defense at all, I'm not defending Golden Age Hollywood. But if you got extras and they don't know how to act, and this is early days of movies... How do you get a natural reaction?
Put them through some trauma.
I mean, not that trauma. That's
dump
crazy.
that water.
Yeah.
Send the actual flood.
Seriously. That's crazy.
So crazy.
Holy.
So crazy.
That would not fly today.
No. Now let's get into some actor craziness. All right. Ollie Reed, known as Proximo from Gladiator. Okay.
Oh, the original?
This is original Gladiator. So we're jumping forward. You know, this is...
What year is this now?
In the 90s.
Okay.
No, 2000 was when Gladiator came out.
2006? I don't know.
Anyway, here we go. Do you know the story?
I don't think I do.
Okay, so Ollie Reed is a legend. He was an alcoholic.
I don't think I know who Ollie Reed is.
That is like known. They're filming in Malta for Gladiator, and Ollie Reed like loves to go out and have a great time and, you know, drink and be crazy. And then they filmed like not all of his parts of the movie. Okay.
What?
He goes to a bar and there's like U.S. Navy servicemen there. They recognize him and they're like, drinking contest right now. And he's like, I'll win. So I have it written down. He had 8 German lagers, 12 shots of rum, a half a bottle of whiskey, a few shots of cognac. Then he beat all 5 sailors in arm wrestles individually.
Oh my God.
And then died.
He died?
In the bar.
In the bar?
Yeah, he died of alcohol poisoning.
Okay, wait. How did...
Hold on. So
who
this is crazy.
This?
The crazy thing is, they kept him in the movie. Like Ridley Scott kept him in.
What?
And they still had so much to shoot with him, but they had only shot X amount. So they just cut around him. Wow. What a legendary way to go out.
Wow. It's crazy because I bet you people watch the movie and have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently there's more Proximo, but...
Wow. Who recounted how many drinks he had? Like, who was counting this many drinks back then?
That's a good question. Someone probably got to the point where it was so ridiculous. They're like, all right, let's just rack it up here.
You know, if this is like Hollywood, there's a reporter in the room.
He's lying on,
like,
this is a more of a joke. I'm sorry. He's lying on the ground, and then the waitress comes up. Is like, he's still got a tab.
Think the movie covered that tab?
I'm telling you, the Navy servicemen probably felt bad, so they were like, ooh, yeah, true, we'll pay it. We're gonna jump forward because there's a few.
There's probably so many.
There's a few stories from my favorite book series turned TV series turned the worst TV series of all time. Do you know what I'm about to talk about?
Game of Thrones.
There you go.
And how do I know that? Because a good series turned to the worst series.
There you go.
And we have 2 guys to blame for that.
Yeah, D&D, Dan and Dave. Anyway, in Game of Thrones, the actor who played Bronn had actually dated Cersei. Like,
whoa.
And they hated each other so much that they refused to work on the same set. So they shot stuff individually. Which is so good. That's like the story of Jonah Hill in, I forget the movie that he was in 4 years ago. But he and his co-star hated each other so much that
the Adam Sandler one? Like the Jewish one? Yeah.
Yes. That they CGI'd their kiss.
Yeah, like that's just insane. You hear that and it's like, that is just absurd. But it's also like, those are those moments where like people who don't care at all about these stories, or they don't pick up on VFX, they just watch the movie and they're like, wow, that movie was bad. I don't know really why, but it just sucked. And those are some of those reasons.
That's the moment. There you go. They're like, how come Bronn and Cersei always talk, but they cut just...
Wow, I have to
They're
rewatch
just
that.
single shots to each other. That's actually hilarious. I'm going to have to look back on scenes where they are in the same shot.
I know.
It'd be super interesting. Or in the same scene.
That's crazy.
Speaking of that thing going to shit, Conleth Hill, who plays Varys, like, this is a super famous clip. I remember when it came out, but when they're doing the table read of the last season, when he's killed off by Daenerys, which doesn't happen in the books, by the way, for all of you show watchers, he is shown, like, before he's even dead, he folds his script in front of everyone and throws it in the middle of the table read.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that table read is crazy. If you've watched the videos of it, like
I've seen clips.
Kit Harington starts crying. He's a huge book fan. Yeah. Like, he loved the books. Starts crying in the middle of it. Daenerys starts crying. Like, all of this, it's they just ruined it. But basically, the best way to sum this up is, I've read through some Reddit comments talking about this moment, and it's like, they took the smartest guy in the show and made him dumb. And the response is, are you talking about Varys, or are you talking about Tyrion, or are you talking about Littlefinger? And the response to that is just yes. All three. Brutal. I don't know how I always turn like one of our podcasts into a Game of Thrones podcast, so I apologize again.
That's okay. This is like, huge advocate for Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I love it. Probably my favorite fantasy story / TV show series.
It's amazing.
But I will never forget where I was watching every single episode
Oh my gosh.
of the final season.
Yeah.
And I remember being on a work trip. Reed and I were in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And the final season came out. And we were watching the moment where Arya kills the
Night King.
The Night King.
Yeah.
And it was like this brutal fight. First off, all the lights were turned off and I still couldn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was so dark. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching it and just like yelling at the TV, and Reed's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't describe to someone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones how bad of an episode this is, how bad it's been leading up to this. Like, this is just terrible.
This was, okay.
Very emotional about it still.
I can't describe, but what I will say is my wife and I had just started dating at that point, and we found similarity in Game of Thrones. I don't know if she knew how deep I was into Game of Thrones. Like, for fun, I watched theory videos all the time. In Deep Geek, you're the best channel on YouTube.
You probably won't want to disclose that on a first date, you know?
No, but we both watched the show, so we started watching season seven, and I'm like, 8. There's actually 8 seasons of that show.
Oh, is it? Oh,
which is crazy.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know. We'll have to fact check this.
Oh my gosh.
Been too
It
long.
was just so bad I forget. Anyway.
Everyone tries to forget.
Every single episode of, like, every week of that season, I would look over at Lily and I would say, it's okay, they're just building up. They're just building it up. The next one's gonna be hype. Like, they're just working it to like the big whatever. Nothing came.
You know what? This is sidetracked from your original topic, but the last thing I think to say on this is nobody ever wants to assume that a TV series is going to end with major disappointment.
Right.
All questions unanswered. And you hate the series. Like, you don't assume that. So, like, when you're watching episodes, you think to yourself as a viewer, the writers know what they're doing. This is intentional. They're building this up.
Yeah.
So when you get to the final episode, that's when you can critique it.
It's actually crazy. Isn't there a theory? We're going into parts unknown here. Isn't there a theory that a lot of the writers of Game of Thrones heard about these new Star Wars TV shows that were coming out on Disney, so they wanted to like get off of Game of Thrones and move on to the Disney Star Wars TV shows, which are now terribly written?
Wow, that I don't know.
Get yourself a new team. Anyway, leaving fantasy, let's have some fun. That was depressing. I want to get into like some fun stuff. Okay. So Starsky and Hutch. All right.
Oh,
complete swap.
Wait, hold on. Which one?
The first.
The first?
The first.
Okay. Wait, not with Ben Stiller?
Well, with Ben Stiller.
Okay, well, there's an original one that was filmed in the 60s. Okay, that's why I said first.
Okay. You're right. Okay, you're right.
So second one.
Second one.
Love it. Great movie.
They get Snoop Dogg to play Huggy Bear.
Yes.
And then they contact him and they're like, yo, Snoop, really glad production day is coming up. Only problem is that we don't have a 1979 super pimped out Lincoln Continental. So we're going to have to delay your shoot. We're having a really hard time finding one. He just responds to them, oh, I got one. You cast the right guy.
I love Snoop Dogg.
So what you see in the film is it's his car.
No way.
It's just like, can you imagine how perfect of a casting that is?
Wow.
They're like, oh, we need this guy because it's like, it needs to be like super pimped out gangster or whatever.
Yeah.
And Snoop's like, yeah, that's just like my daily driver, bro.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we've been doing pretty big switch ups.
Okay.
Let's go to a different world. Let's go fantasy again, but futuristic fantasy. 1984 Dune.
Oh.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Have you seen it? It's a wild ride. It's honestly I do recommend it, but I don't recommend it. VFX were wild, but they needed to make these sandworms. Okay. But they used miniatures.
We love a miniature.
Now the problem with miniatures is that small objects look really big. Now these sandworms are in sand, so they had to use these big grains. It was either use grains of sand, normal sand, that looked really big, and it would make no sense, or do what they did, which is use silica dust.
Whoa.
And because of that, it was like silica dust isn't sand, it's small fragmented pieces of glass.
Yeah.
If you breathe that in, like, you can shred your lungs and like die.
Yeah.
So every time they animated these worms, they had to put on respirators, like full on hazmat, essentially.
Wow.
It's
Silica
small
dust.
sand. Bring me to the desert.
Yeah. He's like,
But
I
it
don't care
worked.
about
Honestly, like the sandworms in Dune look 84 look great. Everything else looks questionable, but the sandworms are amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Silica dust. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
Staying in the desert, staying in fantasy, another large series. We're talking Star Wars. Okay, so we're going from 84, we're going to back it up to original Star Wars came out, what, 1970? Something. Producer Chris, 1970?
Probably right.
Anyway.
72.
When they were filming the sand crawler scenes for Star Wars,
Okay.
the Tunisian government, because they're filming in Tunisia,
Right.
asked George Lucas to move the sand crawlers away from the Libyan border during the filming of A New Hope because the Libyan government mistook it as a military operation.
No way.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, that's not a movie. That is a full-on military offense.
Yeah. They thought it was a different kind of Death Star coming their way.
I hope you wrote that joke down.
I didn't know.
That's funny. That's scary.
Yeah.
Well, good thing they made a comment before they just fired away.
Yeah.
Truly.
Could you imagine if George Lucas started a war in the stars?
Wow.
Producer Chris liked that joke. All right. I'm just going to say it. Michael Bay was so annoyed by TJ Miller, the comedian who he cast in Transformers Age of Extinction.
Hold on. I'm trying to remember TJ Miller here. You know what? He's in Silicon Valley. Really good show.
There you go.
But I think he fits the annoying guy who's lazy and wants to make money type guy. But
right. So maybe that's,
I don't know.
Maybe that was the way he came across to Michael Bay on the Transformers movie, because Michael Bay changed the script to kill him off.
Shut up.
In a really brutal way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Could you imagine having the power?
He like essentially, it's like weird because like, okay, classic Michael Bay, they're like running in a line and one grenade gets sent off and it's like, all of a sudden it's like runways of pyro, like while they're running, which is
Michael
so
Bay.
funny. But TJ Miller's character gets caught in the pyro and like, it looks like he just gets vaporized, but then purposely they have a shot of him essentially like burnt statue, like just like, it's so funny. Just like a big middle finger to him for
All because he hated him.
I think it might have been because he didn't want to work with him anymore, so he just killed him off.
Truly burning bridges and burning characters.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
That's funny.
A few more stories here. So this is direct from a Reddit user who works on set. Roman Sooner says, I was hanging out at Crafty one afternoon, and the topic of Steven Seagal came up. One of the grips or gaffers was telling me the story that he heard of Seagal. Seagal basically thought he was top shit, and he would like brag about himself all the time. He pulls out a wad of cash, sets it down, and challenges any takers. Well, one of the either stunt or grips accepts the bet and chokes his ass out cold. Then the guy proceeds to take the cash and walk away. First off, Steven Seagal is delusional. Like, he thinks that he's like a Krav Maga mastermind. He's friends with Vladimir Putin. Like, it's crazy. It's insane.
Second off, what does, quote, chokes him out mean? Chokes his ass out mean?
I think he like put him in a headlock.
So this was literal chokes him out.
Yeah, I think he got him in a hold.
On a set. And was like, wow.
I actually didn't include this part, but supposedly this is Jean LaBelle, famous stunt actor. He's been shown on Corridor. Supposedly, that's a response comment. So I don't know if that's entirely true, but there was also another response comment to this saying that Steven Seagal shit himself when this happened. I think we're just shitting on Steven Seagal at this point.
Wow,
deserves it, but.
Wow. I have a natural hate towards Steven Seagal because just instinctively.
That's probably good instinct.
My mom was watching it when she had to go to the hospital.
Damn.
With me to deliver me. Crazy fact.
Wow,
so
really?
She was like mid-movie and her water broke and had to leave a Steven Seagal movie.
Wow. So
as a baby, as an infant,
it started like at 0.
I hate Steven Seagal. I hate this movie. Get me out of here.
Fair enough. All right. One more. This is The Exorcist. The movie that went wrong. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened on the sets of Poltergeist and of Exorcist. Like, people died after the fact. Super weird stuff happened.
I low-key love Exorcist.
It's a good movie.
I think it's one of the greatest horror movies.
It's honestly, isn't it? I think it's one of the scariest of all time. Right?
I fully agree. I remember watching The Exorcist in the dark, home alone.
I would never.
I had to turn on all the lights halfway through the movie. I was so scared. And then, as a teenager, I was like, I got to show this to my friends because this is scary as shit. So we all go watch this movie at a friend's house. And I remember putting this on, and we started watching it, and I'm like, oh, guys, this is a scary part. And everyone just starts laughing, and I was like, oh, this sucks. So nobody found it scary. They all thought it was a joke.
Okay, The Exorcist and The Conjuring.
Oh, Conjuring is terrible.
Oh, I love that movie.
Actually. Okay. So people died on this set. They also died in the movie.
Yeah, sorry. Back to the thing. So, The Exorcist, when the priest is giving last rites to Karis, his authentic grief-stricken shaking is the result of the director slapping the shit out of him without warning immediately before shooting. Also, and I left this in because we're going to leave off with a production story from my life that is like this. Also, one of the technicians in the hospital scene was later convicted of murder and was possibly a serial killer.
In the movie?
He was in the movie.
Was he an extra or did he have a talking role?
He was a technician in the hospital.
During her first...
He was an actor.
Her first visit to the hospital, do we think?
Don't know.
Okay.
So, how does this relate to me?
That is definitely the question I'm thinking right now.
4 years ago, I was shooting a commercial, and we needed a prop. The prop master came to me and said, we need to pick up a couch. I know a guy. He lives in this house in the city. This guy will meet you here. He'll help you load the couch. All right, people are renting from this place, so make sure you knock on the right door. I'm like, okay. So I knock on the side door because I was told to, and this guy who very off-putting vibes right away is waiting for me at the door, but the door wasn't open. So I knock, and instantly he opens the door, and he's like, you here for the couch, whatever. I'm like, yeah. No worries. I go downstairs, and the basement of this house is just literally horror proppy type, dystopian weird. I got very weird vibes from this whole scenario. Okay.
Scary.
So he apparently runs this business in the basement. There's people who rent the top 2 floors.
Business in the basement.
I Load this couch. I leave. I remember distinctly talking to my friend on set saying, I don't know, it's just like a weird vibe, whatever. Okay. The guy who runs the business down in the basement got in an argument with one of the tenants, like at 5 p.m. that day, murdered him, and is currently in jail.
The guy you picked the couch up from?
Yeah. He helped me load the couch, actually.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
Now, this isn't like I was almost murdered, but like, no. But,
That is terrifying.
Weird, hey?
I
think the couch went back to the same place, actually, which is kind of hilarious.
and scary. I think we've learned some valuable lessons here.
Yeah.
Through these horror stories.
Weird things happen.
Basically, we have learned that some stunt actors can't do all stunts. Like swimming.
True.
Which should be a prerequisite. We also learned that drinking kills.
To a certain degree.
We also learned that directors have the power to use their hate for good sometimes by killing off the actors they like the least.
Yeah, depending on who you are. If you're TJ Miller.
Exactly. And then I guess we also learned that people will do anything for movie sets. Whether that be go pick up a couch from a guy who's a murderer or jump into a big pit full of water just to be on camera.
There you go.
And the last lesson I think we learned that's most valuable is don't trust people with businesses in their basement.
True.
Wow.
That's true.
You really went in there flying blind.
I flew. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to check it out on YouTube. It's better. There's a whole visual component. But if not, just leave us a follow. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.